Let's talk about a piece of technology. One so incredibly powerful that it literally split human existence in two, a before and an after. And no, I'm not talking about an engine or a computer. I'm talking about something you're using right now, the simple act of writing. Just for a second, really try to picture it. I mean, a world with no way to record anything, where every single idea, every discovery, every amazing story is stuck inside a living person's mind. So if you figure out a better way to build a shelter, or you find a plant that cures a sickness, the moment you're gone, that knowledge is gone too. It just vanishes. And for 99% of the time humans have been on this planet, that was our reality. It's what we call prehistory. But then, everything changed. Someone figured out how to turn a thought into a physical thing. So, where did this unbelievable technology come from? Well, this is where the story gets really interesting. The origin of this world-changing invention, it doesn't start with some grand poet or a powerful king. It starts with, believe it or not, the world's very first accountants. I mean, you'd think so, right? You'd imagine someone wanting to write down these epic poems about heroes and gods, or a king issuing a grand decree, or maybe a prophet trying to record a sacred vision. It had to be someone with big, world-shaping ideas.
Well, the reality is a little less glamorous. Writing wasn't invented for poetry or for power. It was invented to keep track of receipts. Yep, the first recorded human thoughts were things like 5 bags of grain and 10 sheep. The inventors of writing weren't poets. They were bean counters.
So picture this. It's about 5,400 years ago in Mesopotamia, what we now call Iraq. Cities are booming, and Sumerian merchants are trading all over the place. But they have a problem. They can't remember who bought what or who owed them grain. So they start scratching little pictures into wet clay tablets. A picture of grain meant grain. Over hundreds of years, these simple pictures got more abstract, turning into a system of wedge-shaped marks we now call cuneiform. And that is the dividing line. The second we could make a permanent record of a thought, we were no longer a species just living in the moment. For the very first time, we had a past we could look at. Humanity had officially stepped out of prehistory and into history itself. But here's where the story gets even crazier. This wasn't some one-off miracle that happened in one place. Writing was an idea so essential, so necessary for complex societies, that it basically invented itself, over and over again, all around the globe. It happened independently at least 4 different times. While the Sumerians were poking at clay tablets, the Egyptians were developing their beautiful and intricate hieroglyphs. Thousands of miles away, in China, people were carving symbols into animal bones and turtle shells. And all the way across the ocean, civilizations in Mesoamerica, like the Maya, were creating their own incredibly complex glyphs. And each of these systems was perfectly suited for its culture, right? Cuneiform on clay was great for business. Hieroglyphs carved in stone were perfect for immortalizing kings. Oracle bones were used to talk to ancestors. But they all had one huge problem in common. They were insanely complicated. I mean, to read or write any of these early scripts, you had to memorize thousands of unique symbols. It was a full-time job. That meant literacy wasn't for everybody. It was a specialized skill, a secret code known only to a tiny group of priests and professional scribes. For writing to really change the world, it needed to be democratized. It needed to get simpler. And that leap forward required a totally different way of thinking. It was like a software update for the human mind. It was the alphabet. So think about it like this. The old way, the pictograph method, meant one symbol stood for one whole idea. To write the word cow, you drew a little picture of a cow. That's simple enough, but just imagine trying to come up with a unique drawing for every single thing you could possibly think of. The absolute game changer, which was really perfected and spread by the Phoenicians around 1050 BC, was this. What if a symbol didn't represent an idea, but a sound? Now you only need a couple dozen little symbols, and with those, you can mix and match them to build literally any word you can speak. You can actually see how it happened. The Phoenician letter for the ah sound was called aleph, which also meant ox, and the symbol kind of looked like an ox's head. The ancient Greeks borrowed it, called it alpha. Then the Romans got a hold of it, flipped it around, and boom, you have the letter A that we use today. This was the key. This is what finally put the power of writing into everyone's hands. Okay, so writing is now simple, it's accessible, How did that actually rewrite the course of human history? Well, you could say it gave humanity 3 brand new superpowers. The first one is absolutely mind-bending. It was the power to defeat time itself. Seriously, think about it. Before writing, every generation was basically starting from scratch. But now, knowledge could stack up. It could accumulate. Isaac Newton could literally have a conversation with Archimedes, who had been dead for thousands of years, just by reading his books. Civilization could finally build on what came before, adding layer after layer of discovery. The second superpower? It was the invention of a type of justice that was bigger than any single person, even a king. When a ruler like Hammurabi had his laws carved into a giant stone pillar for everyone to see, something fundamental changed. The rules were now fixed. They were permanent. A king couldn't just wake up one morning and change the law because he was in a bad mood. This created the radical idea of accountability, the idea that the law exists separately from the person in power. And the third superpower was the ability to collapse distance, to shrink the world and connect people who would never, ever meet. Writing made it possible to run huge, sprawling empires. An order written in Rome could be carried out word for word in Britain a month later. But it's way more than that. It meant that complex ideas in science, philosophy, religion could travel much farther and faster than any single person. This is the ancient ancestor of the telegraph, the telephone, and the internet connecting us right this very second. Now, of course, writing had some help along the way. These key technologies were like amplifiers. Paper, which was invented in China, was so much cheaper and more portable than clay or stone. But the real explosion happened with Gutenberg's printing press in 1440. It took the process of copying a book from months of manual labor to something that could be mass-produced. This sparked the Renaissance, the Reformation, basically the modern world. The astronomer Carl Sagan, he said it best. He said, "Writing is proof that humans can work magic." And it really is, isn't it? It's a way for our thoughts to outlive our bodies. It's the ability to whisper in the ears of someone who won't be born for another 1,000 years. It's pure magic. From that first Sumerian accountant noting down his sheep, all the way to the words you're seeing on this screen, we're all part of this incredible, unbroken chain. Which leaves me with one last thought for you. If you could carve a message, anything at all, that would be read 5,000 years from today, what would you want it to say?